Once again, I've been bearish for 2 years on Intel because they've lost so much market cap and market space and market share to competitors or their own incompetence, right? You've got losing Apple as a client, right? Apple went M1, developed their own. AMD basically making the same product but better, okay? Everyone else having GPUs that are light speeds ahead. I mean, look at NVIDIA, right? TSM, they've got huge contracts and they're getting a decent supply of product or of materials and whatnot in to develop it in a decent spot. And they're moving their gigafactory to Arizona, which is going to obviously, help with supply chains in the future. So all of this has beaten Intel down to shit. They're sitting at $45, okay? They hit their 52-week low today. Granted, part of the sell-off is because the entire market's selling off. Tech is selling off. Cheap money's disappearing. But let me tell you a couple reasons. Number one, Intel has actually changed their leadership, which is something they desperately needed to do, right? So one, change in leadership. Now, is this guy going to be perfect? Probably not, but is it better than what they had? Most likely. Number two, they're moving into a mining, they're developing their own mining chip, right? This is huge. This is huge. This is something that if they actually put their resources and development and time and money into, and crypto continues to hold value, right? At some, it's been hurting right now. It continues to hold value over time, especially with the way a lot of people are getting concerned with currencies right now, especially with the way we're seeing the ruble and the dollar and everything like that. This could be big because let NVIDIA take care of all the GPUs and the gaming and all that shit like that. Focus on a mining, right? Be the leader in that. That'll set you apart. Number three, Gap, right? The rest of that sector has been running. Okay, we've seen NVIDIA go nuts. We've seen AMD go nuts. We've seen TSM go up. I'm an ON semiconductors. They've been going nuts. That entire sector is going nuts. But Intel's been falling and lagging behind. So this brings them what I call value, right? Value investors will come in and say, okay, if the semiconductor, sector is going to continue to push up over time, because we need them. What do we need semiconductors for? Fucking everything. You need an EV. EVs are huge right now. EVs need semiconductors. Okay, computers, Peloton bikes, fucking everything in the world needs semiconductors. So there's a demand there. And if these other companies are just saturated, people are gonna have to go to someone else. And Intel's going to be that one. Value investors are going to look at this and say, what about melt up, right? I call it melt up. The entire sector is going like this and one stock is doing this. Eventually, it's going to have to melt up, right? But the one thing that I like Intel more than anything right now, at least at this level, now it could keep going down, right? If the market crashes, the market pulls back, and we see another 6 to 7% downswing in the S&P this year, that's not going to matter. But here's the other thing I'm looking at. Does everybody here know what PE ratio is? This is something that hasn't mattered in a while because nobody cares about this. Everybody's just greed and getting as much money, and they made the justification, well, we're betting on the future, not now. No, it's just greed. Price to earnings ratio. How much the share is worth versus how much their earnings are. So basically, when you look at this, you look at the number and it tells you how many years it would take at their current earnings to be at a valuation of the current price. Now, this is something you look at when you're looking for companies that are stronger in the fundamental, more value, I should say, right? Like, what is a better value? So when you look at this, you look at the price to earnings, right? So how many years it would take of the current earnings to get to the price of the stock is. Some of these Tesla was like 1,000 at one point, right? So that's crazy. Now, obviously, a lot of people buy and say, in the future, it will be there, we're just going to catch up. But when you're looking at something at quote-unquote value, right, you want to look at something like this, and you want to say, okay, this is more in line with something that could get closer there quicker. What is the current PE ratio of, let's do AMD, right, just for example. Not that AMD is a bad company in any way. I remember when AMD was 300 PE ratio when it was only $33, so whatever. But their PE ratio is 44. So AMD is 40, we'll just round up to 45. Okay, NVIDIA has a current PE ratio of 61. TSM is at 29. Am I saying that PE ratio is outdated? No, I'm saying that this is one of many things you want to look at because you want to look at a company that has a better chance of showing the value of the company and of what they have based on what their current valuation is. And if it's that low or it's significantly low, they have a better chance of reaching that higher PE ratio, right? Because the higher the PE ratio, it's kind of like RSI, right? Just because something's at a high RSI doesn't mean it's going to fall, but it gives you an indication that, hey, it's pretty, compared to its moving average and where it's generally traded at, in the short term, this is probably, going to slide down. Now, what is Intel's PE ratio? 9. So their current price at $45 to their earnings is only 9. So basically this would say 9 years at current earnings to get to their current valuation. 9.27, but I'm just going to round these numbers. Now, obviously, there's a reason why Intel is down. They've been making bad decisions, or they're just getting outdated, or they're getting killed by their competitors. But based on what I wrote with the new leadership, the focus on mining chips, okay, and the fact that semiconductors are always going to be in need, more so in need, people are going to look for value in that sector and melt up. Now, I don't know if it's going to go to $42 because this market's crazy, but for me, as much upside I see over the next 5 to 10 years, based on what its price is right now compared to the rest of them and what potential they have, I'm buying shares for the long term. So if you're asking why I'm buying Intel, this is the justification for me. All right? I see way more upside over the next 5 to 10 years for this than some of the other ones. Not just because of PE ratio, not just because of whatever, but I feel like this is the biggest value in a very bullish sector. Now, I've been in ON Semiconductors since it was $13.50, right? It's like $50 now. The reason I got in then was because they shifted their business model to autonomous vehicles and semiconductors for that, which led into EVs and whatnot. 2 years later, EVs are the future, the rage, right? Everybody's trying to outdo each other. ON is up 350% since then. I'm not saying Intel's going to do the same thing, not even in the slightest. But this is why I chose today as my entry into Intel. Sure, there's more downside potential, but for me, long term, I put this in my long term portfolio. Long term, based on where it's at today, I have to buy. If it drops to $39, sure, I'll buy some more because I don't know where the bottom is. But I just can't comprehend how this doesn't have the most upside potential in the sector right now. So basically, you're degenning this based on technical analysis. I'm not busting out the Fox this early. I'm just going to ignore you.